come stand with us, take USA back. And every time we pull up, all you're gonna see is American flags. American flags. American flags. And every time we pull up, all you're gonna see is American.
What's going on, Patriots? Welcome back to the Patriots Prayer Podcast. We got a show for you, and we're going to welcome a special guest that we have on here tonight, Ryan Mack, and my co-host, as always, the native Patriot. And Ryan here. How you doing, Ryan? What's going on, Maurice?
How you doing?
Ryan, Ryan is the purveyor of Main Street economics. Now, we're going to get to know Ryan is a little bit better. And, I'm going to give the floor to him because, Ryan reached out to me on the website not long back and basically opened up the door of let's have a conversation. And we've had quite a conversation even prior to going live here tonight. And this is what needs to happen, folks. Listen, this man reached out because he saw a need and he wanted to fill it. He saw, people not wanting to have conversations, and we live in a society where people are so divisive that conversations don't take place. And people, if we continue down that road of not speaking, of not having conversations, of not getting to know our neighbors, of not fixing our communities, of not being accountable, we're headed nowhere fast. So, Ryan, I really do want to welcome you to the Patriots Prayer Podcast, and thank you so much for reaching out. Tell us a little bit about yourself, who you are, why you started this journey of teaching financial literacy.
Well, first of all, I just want to say thank you for the work you do. Thank you for the passion that you have for the community. I've done my research on you, and you are passionate about helping people. And at the end of the day, whether we agree ideologically on everything or not, that's the starting point. I think the society needs to start from. Do we really want to help people? Do we really want to empower people? So I thank you for that.
I appreciate that. I really do.
I see the spirit in the work you all are doing, and it's admirable. But I've been teaching financial literacy for over 20 years. I grew up in Detroit, Michigan. Went to University of Michigan, majored in finance. I spent about 6 years on Wall Street, the largest NASDAQ trading firm. And one day my aunt called me and said, I was making good money back in 2003 or 4, and she said, what is a stock? And I said, wow, my own family doesn't know what a stock is, that basic question. And here I am making money by trading stocks every day. I was doing biotechnology stocks. I said, so I started writing about stocks and educating. That's when I first started to write. That translated to going and teaching youth financial education. And then I eventually left. I wanted to get a job. I got an offer from an organization. I won't say the name, but 2004, they gave me a job offer. So to be a financial planner, because I wanted to go and take financial planning to my community. And I was so excited being a man of God. I said, and on the day I was supposed to sign, I said, I'm going to take your company to my church, to public housing. I'm going to take it to all around the community. And he stopped me right there. He said, you know what? Unless you only work with high net worth individuals, everybody else is a waste of time. And that hit me because I grew up, we were broke. We knew about welfare. We knew about the cheese that don't melt in the oven. We knew about cornflakes with the box with no Tony the Tiger, just the black.
That was some good cheese, though. I'm not going to lie. I love that cheese.
That's real cheese sandwiches.
That is the best cheese you ever had in your life.
Best scrambled eggs ever. The cheese don't always melt quite all the way, but it just
Hey, I gotta tell you, what you just said there, I really resonate with, because I feel like my message, and it may be slightly different than yours. You're coming from an educated standpoint of being able to financially help people, but there's definitely a forgotten bunch in this country where there's a certain type of class that, exactly like you said, where they kind of discount people by saying, if they're not wealthy enough, then don't even work with them, don't even touch them, and I kind of come from that underbelly. I change industrial tires for a living, so I get to talk to all kinds of different people, all kinds of different truck drivers or construction workers or or delivery drivers, whatever it may be, whatever company that uses a truck, which is a lot of them.
Mm.
And man, there's a lot of really good people out there that have just been forgotten in a lot of ways.
And
So it is absolutely admirable that you kind of took a step back from that and want to do more for the kind of the forgotten people.
well,
So
this is
I just wanted to put that in there.
no, brother. What you're saying is right on target because Proverbs 3:27 says, "Do not withhold good from those who deserve it when it is in your power to act." So we all have been given a power from God, an ability to do good for others. What you all are doing on this radio show, on the pod, it's in your power. You're doing good for others, and I saw an ability. So I didn't take the job, and that's when I first started Optimum Capital Management. And I found out quickly why he only worked with high net worth. It's hard working with individuals who are not high net worth. I wasn't always good at sales, and I always talked myself out of sales, but God blessed me. God walked me through, and it's a whole other long story that He sustained me. And I'll tell you one story that really resonated with that took me on a direction to even work with a lot of gang members that I work with, still this day. I was walking home, and I saw, it was April 2005, and I saw a little girl had got shot. It was in Brooklyn, and they were pulling the sheet over her head. And I knew that it was right there on the corner of Fulton and Putnam in Brooklyn that the Bloods used to hang on that, still hung on that corner. I said, man, and they literally were pulling over here. I was struck, and I found out from the news later on that she was only 12 years old. At that point, in 2005, from 95 to 2005, 5 of my good friends, a god brother, a god sister, 2 fraternity brothers, and a good friend of mine were killed by gun violence in Detroit, Michigan, where I grew up. So I was just tired. I was tired of seeing the violence. I was tired of seeing, and so and I learned later on that it was crossfire that ended up taking that little girl's life. So I said, let's do something about this. So we pulled together, myself, other brothers from the community, and said, what can we do to try to pull the Bloods, the Crips, the Latin Kings? And we had a meeting with them and said, what can we do to help you find other routes and not judge you, but help you find other routes that you don't have to put our community members in danger. And from that point on, I became known as the money guy in Brooklyn. And I was teaching financial literacy. We taught over 3,000 folks, most of them returning citizens, in financial education. We trained them. We got them certifications, OSHA training. We connected with various developers, and shout out to Forest City Ratner and Thor Equity and HJ Russell, different developers around the community who said, we want to get these folks jobs. We want to get them trained. And I was teaching them, once they got the jobs and certified, I would teach them how to manage the money. And I never got paid a dime from any of that. And we were all able to, most of us never got paid from that, right? And
But did God provide for you while you were doing this? Did you want for anything?
Well, no, because that's
Exactly.
the thing. My business was set up, and that's when I started doing CNN and started doing CNBC and other areas because I sucked at sales, but because I got the exposure, I was able to make sales from people who saw me on television. Because I was always talking myself out of sales. You don't need that insurance. You don't need that. But I had enough exposure to be able to get enough to keep my lights on and to keep moving and to keep doing the work that I really love to do, which is help work. And over the folks that we work with, 95% never went back to prison. So we lowered.
Wow, that's incredible. That's actually
awesome.
Yeah, that's actually incredible, and something that I mean, you should definitely highlight something like that because, the recidivism rate for prisoner jail is pretty high, and so
it's like 90%.
You saw a problem in your community, and you didn't shy away from it because a lot of the times we will see problems as concerned citizens, and shy away from it or step over it. I mean, in my community,
not our responsibility, not my problem, that sort of thing.
Somebody else is going to take care of it.
Exactly.
So I mean, I'm loving everything I'm hearing, and that's something that's really cool. And I just wanted to highlight that as well. Yeah, and
I just told you
say,
my story about that same exact thing. I work with people from Hope for Prisoners to make sure they don't reoffend. And the easiest way to keep someone from reoffending is to make sure that they have a job and they have a livable wage.
Exactly.
And the difference, I told you, I'm from Baltimore City. I grew up in a very poor community. When I left that community and I came out west, and I started to make something out of myself. I grew up in a house. So I lost my father when I was young. I didn't have a father in the household. So I didn't have that person to teach me to be a man. I had to learn. I had to learn on my own by mistake after mistake after mistake. And unfortunately, some of those mistakes landed me in prison.
Right.
When I
you're
came out
kind
of
of
that,
being that. So I was just saying that Ryan's kind of being that fatherly figure in the way, like he's not, spanking them or anything, but he's showing them the way of the world and giving them an education and arming them with information. Yeah.
That's the difference between who I was and who I am now, though. When I left Baltimore and who I am now, the difference between the two is just information.
Yeah,
it's just the knowledge.
A lot of the leader. I remember when we met that first time with the Bloods. I called out the leader of the Bloods, the largest set in Brooklyn, out of Brownsville, and I said, "Let's meet for breakfast." And that became a long-standing. We're still good friends to this day. He had just came home from Rikers, and we've done tons of workshops in Rikers and different prisons across the country. But I did a lot of workshops in Rikers. But he would tell me, he said, "Ryan, when I saw someone who wore like a fancy coat or something, I would look at it as a way to feed my children." And I said, that resonated with me because he'd never been shown another legit way to figure out how to do it without taking something from someone else. Like, how can I do it myself? How can I get the education? And what you're saying is right on point, my brother, because it's the knowledge and the education that's void. And if you take that away, then everyone's getting educated every single day, whether you like it or not. It just depends on which education you want to listen to. So those individuals who are at Rikers got the wrong education in the way of what he was saying. If I see something wrong, I'm going to take it. Somebody taught him to do that, right? So all we have to do is train and say, okay, this is what I was the chair of the Educational Foundation for Medgar Evers College. Okay, brother, they got and I was also on the board for Brooklyn Educational Opportunity Center. So I would always tell them, come on down, get that GED at BEOC. Come on down, take this continuing education at Medgar Evers College. Come on down and get your OSHA training and lead abatement training, underpiming. So come on. So we're showing them different ways to be able to be productive members. And again, we didn't get funding for this. And this is the point that I think, for me personally, rises above even political, because no one talked about who we were going to vote for in those conversations, right? It was all about how we're going to get you to empower yourself. And I imagine many of them were conservative. Most of them in the Brooklyn area were probably leaning left. But it was just about, man, let's work together. Let's empower each other.
What year was this?
This was it's 2006. 2006. That was like 2005 when I first saw the little girl. So about a year after that, we firmly got organized. And shout out to, rest in peace, brother Darnell Canada, who helped to organize a lot of the folks. And we started working through him. So 2005 through 2008 or 9, we were doing the bulk of the work back then. But then from that point, I started doing a lot more traveling and still teaching in various prisons across the country.
Man, I feel like that is just today? A completely different time.
Yeah, I just came back.
Still going to the prisons today, and you still.
I just got back from Texas. About I got these are these are all letters from from folks down in Cleveland, Texas, where they're using one of my books to educate. So they're using one of my books to teach themselves financial literacy. So they invited me down to just do and talk to them. So I did the keynote, and then the next day I went into the prison and we talked. And man, when we talk for an hour. They got to kick me out of them bad boy, man. We talk for 3-4 hours, and then I see the officer. Okay, now you need to come on, brother. And we just have to get time, and it's I love.
I know of a group. Ryan, I know of a group in Baltimore right now trying to set up a system for people that when they get out, so they have one central place to go to learn the things that you're talking about, to help them find the jobs, to get them educated in whichever way they need to. Basically, what they're trying to do is set up a centralized place that you can go one place for all things necessary, whether it be for counseling, whatever it is, right? I'm gonna hook you up with some people who are asking questions about exactly what you're talking about. A friend of mine who wrote a book called The Psalms of the Lost Sheep. His name is Antonio Rabaya. He's an author. He's a friend of mine. I grew up with him. We were very young. We knew each other all of our lives, and he's got a rags to redemption story himself, and he is trying to do also what you do, but more from a counseling perspective and helping people realize that they don't have to lead that life. And so and they're trying to connect a lot of dots right now, and I have a feeling you might be able to help them connect some of those dots.
Because I work with an organization out there called Young Minds Incorporated. We just got back from PG County 2 weeks ago. So we just
PG County, I know the spot. Yeah. Prince George's County, for those of you who don't know. Yeah.
And so we did a press release where I'm the money guy for that organization. Everybody's always got me to be the money guy because we created a digital platform that they're adopting. So that could be a lot of synergy there. But the purpose of that organization is to provide using the digital platform for the state of Maryland and to use financial education as a means to reduce violence. I firmly have always believed that if we can educate our individuals in our communities in economics, there's a positive correlation between poverty and crime. Teach them about money, you can reduce crime. And up in Chicago, they've reduced violent crime by 13% in 2023, but they've just adopted that digital platform that we're doing today to help to, again, further integrate financial education into their communities using like a peer-to-peer pedagogy where I don't like to just teach. I want them to learn it and then go. Because I'm tired of like, okay, I can give a great speech, right? It's cool. It's awesome. I give a great speech. I'm a good speaker. I ain't pat myself on the back, but it is what it is. But I would get like applause, and then I would walk away, and I want to know what the hell happened after we.
Finished. What seeds did I plant? What comes of that? Yeah.
What happened next, right? So and I said, God, I want to know how can we create a system. That's what I've been working on for the past 6 years to do more of the work that we did back in 2006, where I was actually doing work with individuals, but then I'm only one individual. How can we use technology? So that's kind of where we've evolved to, is using a blended learning ecosystem using technology to help have a scalable difference. But a lot of those are returning citizens in Chicago and then down in PG County if they adopt the program. So we're excited about what we want to do to really see some tangible change, because I don't want to give just good speeches anymore. I want to see people actually seeing FICO scores going up, savings rates going up, net worth going up, debt going down. I want to see that and measure that.
Man, it sounds like I need to take his class.
I mean, we all do. I mean, when I teach, I started this because when I started teaching financial literacy, everybody wanted to know about stocks. But then they started to ask about credit. I was a stock trader at the time. I mean, I'm 21. I ain't nothing about credit. So I was like, they're asking me all these questions about credit and estate plan. So I had to learn that over time because I said, if they're asking me this stuff and I don't know it, so let me learn it. So by teaching it, so I would learn it. So the more I would teach it, the more I would learn it. So it really was
iron sharpens iron.
Yes, it does. Right on my wrist, right there. Iron sharpens iron. Right. You know what, guys? I'm going to take a quick break. We're going to pay a little homage to our sponsors real quick. And guys, when we come back, if you have questions for Ryan, please put them in the chat and we'll get your questions answered for you. We'll be right back.
Greetings, kindred spirits. Welcome to Smoking Gun Coffee, where the essence of the land infuses every sip. It carries the spirit of reverence for the earth and its gifts. As you indulge in our carefully crafted blends, envision the dance of the winds and the whispers of ancient trees. Let each cup be a journey through time, a tribute to the harmony found in nature. Smoking Gun Coffee, a ritual of warmth, a connection to the sacred. Embrace the rich tapestry of flavors and join us in honoring the legacy of the land. Taste the spirit, savor the journey. Smoking Gun Coffee, where every cup is a celebration of our shared connection.
I'm smiling every time that commercial ends. Go to smokingguncoffee.com, get your coffee, get your Tribe of Patriot hats. I just love that commercial, man. Use discount code Native Patriot.
So, guys, when you get to smokingguncoffee.com, you'll see this Tribe of Patriots link right there. Go check it out. And also, you can go to thepatriotsprayer.com and you can go to it through our website as well. I have a link there for you as well. With that being said, now we talked about you having ministry, going into teaching and talking to people who are in prison, trying to get that recidivism rate down. You work in your own communities. You go in and you're dealing with people who are destitute, who probably never really cared so much about what their credit score is because they never thought they would have credit. I'm speaking from experience, and I'm telling you, what you're doing is the number one thing that's going to empower people to get them. The old adage of give a man a fish, teach a man to fish. That's exactly what you're doing, and that's what's needed because you're trying to empower the individual so that they can take care of themselves. Yeah, and I tell people this all the time. We need to stop relying on other people to do for us. Hey, the government should do it. No, you do it. I guarantee you have the ability. You have the ability. You have the common sense. You have the ability. The things that you need to do it are out there, and all you need is someone to show you where they are and how to apply them.
Right?
Am I wrong?
You're talking the truth here because, like, I've always looked at the government like a maid, right? You hire a maid to clean your house and wash the dishes. But if the maid doesn't do a good job, you're not going to stop running your house, right? You're just going to fire the maid and get a new maid. So we have we've taken the maid and made her the leader of the house. And what house do we have a maid leading the house?
Yeah, the tail is wagging the dog.
Yeah,
she's also stealing from you.
Why are we waiting on the maid to make the decision for the household? Like that, it blows my mind. And we see these things in our communities. I had a conversation with I won't say his name, but he's a leader and a political leader in the Detroit area. And I ragged him because I said, you
got to say his name now. You said he's a political leader. That's what we do.
Well, he literally, like I said, we wait all year round. Like, I'm working. This is my thing. I want to teach. I want to see some impact. I want to see some change. We don't have to wait on anyone. But the city of Detroit and many other cities, I'd imagine, for that matter. Matter of fact, it is in other cities because I've worked in many cities. We work, and then right around September, October, it becomes election season. And then all the work stops. And then we work to get the next person elected, right? And then as soon as the next person gets elected, what do? The first thing they do after they get elected, start raising money. So they start raising money. They start putting you on the fundraising emails. And that goes on. And then it goes up, but then you have holidays. Then it goes up, and then you have internal elections within various unions. Then it goes up, and then the next election season comes. Now you got midterms. So we stop the work to literally ask others to do for us what we need to be doing for ourselves. And it's frustrating, especially as business owners, because we're like, people still need to eat. We still got bills to pay. We who could care less? Like, for me personally, whoever gets in the White House, I'm reaching out to say, let's work together and figure out how we can get some stuff done for the community in which we live, period. Right? So when Trump was elected, first thing I did, I was blessed enough to meet with Steve Harvey's people. And then they connected me
about the opportunity zones,
Exactly. They connected me with Ben Carson's people. So next thing you know, I'm meeting with Ben Carson when he came to Detroit. And so I said, Dr. Carson, and they recognized me. His wife recognized me because I used to host a show, Dollars and Cents, on 3 Angels Broadcasting Network, biblically based show. I'm not Seventh-day Adventist, but they let me on there because I guess they like me or whatever. But so she said, yeah, I know your show. And I said, cool. I said, look, you are over HUD. Let's figure out how we can get folks who are in HUD to no longer have to live in HUD. Like, ain't that logical?
That's what was happening though. During that time, we had people leaving the welfare registers in droves. They were leaving it in droves.
But I'll tell
And
you,
I can't wait to see that again.
I wanted to see that happen, but it slowed down tremendously when they hit that hit story, that hit piece that came out about the furniture or whatever. That caused all of it to kind of slow down. And then that piece with the promise zones, and even Steve Harvey, that kind of, I talked with his people and they were like, man, it's not going any further. But it just slowed down. And so my point is that I don't care who's in office. I'm going to work with you. And we'll work with you, and I'm going to figure out what you can do to yield whatever you can do for the greater benefit of who we serve. Democrat, Republican, Independent, Whig, bring that party back. I don't care. Let's work for the greater good of our people, and period. And that's all. That's how I see it.
So you're on a mission. I mean, that's what you're on. It seems like you've found the wisdom to discern what you can control and what you can't control. And so it sounds like your path, I mean, you've found your path, your calling has I mean, you're fulfilling your calling, man. That's a beautiful thing. And regardless of the higher politics, you're getting this done for the better sake of the people around you.
And this is one reason why I reached out to this show, because I don't care where you are politically. I don't care. Let's work. Let's work. I saw the work you all are doing. Let's get it together. Because again, as I said in the video, you might have seen it, that when I do a lot of the workshops my goal is to get folks out of the food pantry lines, right? And there's an increasing number of individuals in food pantry. How do we get those folks so we can empower them where they don't have to know? Because I've talked to literally thousands of individuals over the past 20 years or so, since I've been working in this area, tens of thousands of folks really that have gone that route in the food pantry line, but they never thought they would have to do that. They never thought they would be there. How can I be in a place where I can't even put food on the table for my family? And these are not Black people or white people. They're all different cultures, all backgrounds. And it's sad. And I'm like, wow, what can we do? And I'm thinking, like, economics is such a key piece of the puzzle that I actually started to believe, and a brother says he's a conspiracy theorist. I actually believe that many politicians are depending on them. Like, they're depending upon others needing them. And I'm looking at it as like, when I see somebody in my workshop more than like 3 or 4 times, like, why are you still here? Like, go apply what you just learned. Like, I want to work myself out of a job. I don't want to be needed by you. If I'm needed by you just as much next year as this year, I have not done my job in empowering you. But it's where our political leaders now are saying, I need for you to need me. Just dependent on you. So I can't empower you too much, because if you empower, you no longer need me and no longer necessary, which is totally the service. So
you're exactly right. They're creating their own need and they're creating dependence. Yeah. And as long as they have people dependent upon them, this is why I remember when Reagan has said this statement. He said, a government big enough to give you everything you need is a government big enough to take everything you have. Right. And that is the reason why we don't want to build our house and live off of and be propped up by the government, because at any time, they could just take it away from you. And then if you have nothing to fall back on for you, listen, this country was set up so that we could come here and be free man. And you're not free until you're financially free. Exactly. When you are financially free, then you are free. When you can stand on your own 2 feet, pay your own rent, your own light bill, your own cell phone, when you can do it all, then you're free. And it comes with a certain sense of accomplishment that is addicting. It's very, very addicting, because when you get that first accomplishment, the only thing is, I can get to that next one I thought was too far toward the top of the tree. Now I'm a little further up the tree and I can grab this one. And next thing you know, I'm gonna be. It's addicting. Listen, I'm telling you,
not only that, you're
nothing. And I run industry out here where I'm at. I oversee $2 billion in work throughout the entirety of my state. I never thought that I would work at anything more than a sub shop. in my whole life. I was as far as I thought I was ever going to get, and I was okay with that. But now that I've had a little more, oh wow, you couldn't pull it away from me now.
Well,
You
success is habitual as well. So what you're
Yeah.
doing when you get that first success is you're creating a habit, and that habit starts with everything that you did to get to that point. So when you start having more success and you build those habits to attain success, you will find more success. So
Right.
I mean that
What does Jordan
starting
Peterson
at the
say?
bottom.
Make your bed. The first accomplishment of the day when you wake up, the first thing you can do, the first accomplishment you can do is make your bed. That is the first thing you can do. And that just starts off the rest of the day.
I call it position versus mission oriented, right? So like position is what we strive to in terms of title. The mission is the work that we need to do in order to achieve that position. And we as a society have gotten glamorized with the position of a CEO of a business, the position of being a homeowner. So these titles that we have, we want that. But then we forget about the work it takes to acquire to keep that home. The mission that takes, anybody could have been a homeowner in 2003, 4, right?
Yeah.
But home, every person.
Well, you could have just got here 10 minutes ago and they were giving you a loan.
And they give you a loan. But that you could achieve the position of homeowner quickly. But the mission of sustaining a home ownership is the skills, the talents that you have, the paying your bills on time, to getting your credit score higher, to working to earn the down payment, to work so you get enough, we don't have to have PMI. All of those things that you have to. So I'm trying to shift folks away from, forget about the title of being, because you can be a business owner tomorrow. You can be a CEO tomorrow. It'll take 3 or 4 days for Hubco to send your information back, bang, $280, whatever filing fee, you'll be a CEO of a business. But it won't be successful because you haven't been married to the mission of what it takes to become a successful business owner. We want to skip the mission part. So financial literacy is literally everything that requires from the work perspective. Faith Without Works is dead. So as we work, then we then allow ourselves to be in alignment with the position that God has granted us, because he says, I always like to say that no one, Christian, anyone, but no Christian should ever ask for something that they're not willing to work for. And we become an entitled society that wants to ask for things that we no longer even want to work for because we've been entitled to it. And that's just the point where our perspective needs to be shifted a little bit.
Yes.
That's one of the scariest things that I've noticed. I got rejected from joining my tribe as a member because they want me to live on the reservation for 5 years. And the reservation, I really don't want any part of it because I see drugs and gangs and I mean poverty. It's not good. I have a brother who I haven't talked to in over 10 years, or just about 10 years now. And I mean, what you're doing is inspiring me. I mean, first I got to learn some of this stuff, right? Got to learn the financial literacy, but it's at least a program that you can lead people to kind of help them get out of the situation. Because I mean, there's so many people around the reservation that feel entitled to things more because they have the title of being part of the tribe, right? Like when the tribe told me I need to live on the reservation for 5, or like in order to join, I got to jump through these hoops. And even though my blood, I'm half.
Why do you
right?
think they do that though? Why do you think they tell you you must live on the tribe for that determinate amount of time in order to be considered? Do you not think that it has something to do with their census and their ability to say so many people live on the tribe to get their numbers up for their own funding?
Yeah. That's probably a big part of it. But I told them to pound sand because like I don't need your title. I have a separate mission. And like if you guys want me to be a part of your community, then I would love to join. I would love to take my kids to powwows up there. And I mean, they do a whole bunch of stuff up in the corner for the Swinomish tribe that, I mean, they do a bunch of beautiful things, but they want me to jump through these particular hoops. And like, I don't need that title in order to become successful in my life. Cause I'm on a higher mission. I want to get married. I want to have a 50th anniversary with my wife. Like that's one of
Mm.
my main missions in life in general. So I had a question for you, Ryan. Where'd he go?
No, Ryan's
Oh, there
there.
he is.
Sorry
All right,
about
I
that.
had a question for you, Ryan.
Yeah.
How important has your faith been to you in order to kind of persevere through the harder times and the things that you've struggled with?
God is everything to me. God is in my entire purpose. God is my best friend. God is my leader. He's my consoler. He's the one that's he's never forsaken me. God is it's even mostly even thinking about it, because in those times, and I guess my flaws are sometimes I'm overly harsh on myself if I don't see the results that I want to see. Um, and even like my mom is, God bless me with a mother who's still alive, who constantly rides on me to, Ryan, stop being so hard on yourself, because I really want to see people do well, and it's
Ryan,
I
let
don't-
me ask you a question.
yeah.
When God says in the Bible, he says, love others as you love yourself.
Mhm.
This was a verse that I didn't really understand until I understood it. The difference between knowledge and wisdom was vast when it came to me. I
Mhm.
knew these verses, but I never knew the wisdom behind them or how to apply them until I
Right.
did, till God opened my eyes up. And one of the things that he showed me with that particular verse is how I love my wife, how I look at my children, how I view people in my family that I care a tremendous deal for, and that love that I feel for them. I had to ask myself, did I love myself that way?
Yeah.
And the reality of it really is that I didn't. And I
Mm.
didn't. And God, was pointing out to me through that verse, that was a problem. I had to learn to love myself, but we had been taught that kind of self-love is arrogance, right? We
Yeah.
see it as arrogance, as self-worship, and that, but it's really not. It's not arrogant to believe in yourself, to see you as God sees you. And
Mhm.
it's not arrogant to love yourself as much as you love your wife or your children,
Right.
or anything like that. So I would just say to people out there struggling with the person they see in the mirror is you have to be able to care and love yourself as much as you love whoever the person you love the most in your life. You need to
Mhm.
love yourself at least that much as well, and never help anyone to your own detriment. Meaning,
Mm.
if it's going to hurt you to
Yeah.
help this person and that person knows it, first of all, that's not your friend.
Yeah.
Second of all, you need to walk away, because that is not, you're not respecting yourself. And
Right.
so many people get caught up in bad relationships
Mhm.
and whatever in their lives, where they're hurting themselves because they think they're loving somebody else.
And this is
Did
the
you
thing.
experience that, Ryan?
You said, well, I'll speak from a selfish perspective. When I talk to folks a lot, just what you were saying, my brother, is that you talking about loving yourself. When you look in the mirror, you are literally looking at the most unique creation God has ever made on this earth. There's nothing before you or after you that will ever have you, the spirit, the way you talk, the way you, I don't care if you're a twin, there's a different spirit inside of you. There's nothing that God has created that is ever going to be like that. So with that comes specific, unique skills and talents that you have a unique ability to bring to this earth. And so from that, there's something that's in with all of us, that someone on the other side of your blood, sweat, tears is waiting on you to use those unique skills to bless them in a way that only you can. So if you don't love yourself, you're literally robbing the ability to bring out all that God has to offer this earth in only the way you can, that others should have been receiving from you to bless them in only the way you could have blessed them. The most
Yeah,
selfish
you're in
you could ever
12
do.
cylinders, you're in third gear.
Yeah, so the most selfish thing you can do is not love yourself and not give all that God has in you to others, because that's what we're here.
Exactly right.
And so that's when I see that all the time, and many individuals in many of the classes that I teach are they say, this is not for me. I don't have the ability. I can't tell how many times I say I don't have the ability to do this. I just came home, or I don't have the. So it's always these limits that people put on them, on themselves, that doesn't allow them to be successful. And then the biggest blessing for me is when I see that light bulb turn off and they see a little bit of success and they go, wait a minute, maybe I can do this. Maybe I can be successful. Maybe I can start this business. Maybe I can have my net worth increased every month. Maybe I can buy this home. Maybe I can move. So it's like that light bulb that says it's not as hard as you thought it was, because God gave us all the ability and the resources on this earth to be successful. So we don't have to say anything else but just thank you. And
I think that's beautiful. I think one of the worst things that we can tell somebody is that they're perfect just the way they are.
Oh, I hate that. Yeah, you're right.
Yeah, that's a horrible thing to say, because
a license to be stubborn.
Yeah.
Well, and not only that, it's like I know, like nobody knows my flaws better than me.
Right.
And I know how flawed I am. I know how lazy I can be sometimes. If I skip out on something, I got some bills on the table that I have been ignoring for a couple weeks. I'm just like, I'll get to it eventually, or maintenance in the yard out back that I need to get done. Nobody in this world knows my flaws better than me. So when somebody says, oh, you're perfect just the way you are, it's like, no, you're not. You're not perfect, but you have so much potential to be so much better than you are. So that's one of the things in modern society now. It's like a pride movement about
yourself.
Love. It's worshiping yourself as you are.
As you are, exactly. Yeah. It's and that's the thing, right? So that there's no room for improvement in today's society. There's no room for improvement, because if you have room for improvement, that means you have to be critical. And once you start being critical, that's not,
you're being judgmental correct. Now. Yeah.
Exactly. So there's no room for, man, you might want to do this or that. So even in various relationships now, where you're out with someone or you're talking with someone, and not to say you want to point out flaws.
Oh, I get it all the time. My wife hates when I correct the way she pronounces certain words. She hates it. And I'm like, I'm so grateful as a kid that came from Baltimore City that someone took the time to tell me, don't say the word like that. Right. This is what it means. I took that and put that in my quiver. I'm like, all right, I got that one. Give me another one. Give me another one.
I mean,
she hates it though. She's gonna beat me up when I'm done.
Like my business was going on a certain way, but it took Dr. Chris Emden at Columbia University to say, why don't you try blended learning ecosystems and school me on a whole new strategy to say, in a loving way, okay, yes, you're teaching. I had the old school way, just doing workshops. But here's a way you can actually do it a little bit different, tweak your business model, and actually engage to see better results. Had I not been open to that criticism, I would not have changed my business model to be as successful. Now we're actually starting to see real success on an ongoing basis. I was telling the story, the first time I ever sold insurance. And when I first got my license, I was green and I sucked. I was the worst insurance salesman ever. Like it took forever, but it took Yvette Gordon, and I tell the story all the time. And she said, Ryan, I'm gonna buy some insurance from you. And 4 months later, I'm still pushing that stuff through underwriting because I was slow with the paperwork. And she said, Ryan, it took 4 months. I still don't have my insurance policy. I'm going with someone else because you're just not good enough yet. And she told me that hurt. And I was mad.
Shame.
Man, how dare she? She's supposed to support me. And don't she know that and after a while, a guy called me down and said, Ryan, is she right or wrong? And that had me interested.
Isn't that the truth? Is she right or is she wrong? Is it got anything to do with your feelings at all? I tell people all the time, Ryan, there's 4 categories I put things in. True, false, good, and bad. There's only 4 categories. Right. It's either true, it's a lie, it's either good, or it's evil.
Right.
I don't know what other categories there are.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's well, it. You said it, Eddie, when you said that that's the truth. Like the best way she could have helped you out is to pull back from enabling you to continue to push this stuff off. That's one of the things about society today is there's so much enabling going on. I have so many issues with I won't even get into that actually. But you know, with just enabling people, because in order to correct behavior, or it's not like my job to correct their behavior,
You have
but
to be
she
able to say
could
you're
have,
wrong.
yes,
Don't
she
do
could
that.
have
It's
dragged that
bad.
out and
Mhm.
let you continue to be lazy, which
Right,
may have, which maybe wouldn't have pushed you to do the right thing, which you're like,
right.
okay, now I have to get my butt into gear and I
All
actually
right.
have to do this. Otherwise, look, there's the consequence of my own actions. It's
Yep.
like
Mhm.
4 months later, I didn't do it. I knew it would happen and I still didn't do it. And now there's the consequences. So now
Yep.
I'm going to have to fix this behavior in order to move forward and become a better person. So
Mhm.
shame can be a good thing. And
She
that's
taught
that's
me
what you
the
felt there was shame.
she
Yep.
taught me the evil A word, accountability, which is a lost
Oh,
art. Can
yeah.
I
I love
be
that word.
accountable in my own actions? Because I know this,
Mhm.
I've read somewhere in some book that says something about no weapon formed against me shall prosper.
So prosper. That's right.
So, and I think you might have read that somewhere.
Yes,
So,
sir.
if you believe that, there's nothing that's out there that if you do the right thing, you will be able to prosper against any weapon. So that means, so that literally takes the entire piece of any ism and puts it on the offense to say this ism, racism,
Mhm.
homophobia, sexism, whatever ism you want to choose, you have the power to overcome that. And if you're not overcoming that, what can you do different
Mhm.
to
They
empower
used to call
others?
it the sin of offense.
Yeah.
And so the way it was always taught is that if I come to you with something that I feel as though you need to be accountable for, and I lay that at your doorstep,
Mm,
and you don't pick it up as a man and own it, and yet you get mad, it's not my sin. You just committed a sin, and
right.
it's the sin of offense because
Mm,
you're not being accountable. And
right.
and in a lot of ways, I think that we in our society, and especially as parents, we really need to be more intentional with the way we raise our kids because the
Mm,
world is going to do it for you if you don't. And
yep.
believe me, their morals, ethics, values, and integrity are not the ones that you want your kid to grow up with. The way that I grew up, and I noticed it, and only after the fact, obviously, was that you only got corrected when you did something wrong. So
Mm,
you all you did was learn where the kind of the guardrails were. Oh, if I
mm,
do that, I might get, paddled or put in the corner or whatever it is. But no one ever took the time to slow down and sit you down and tell you how to do right or put you
mm,
on a path or
right.
teach you that kind of thing. It was never intentional. Once you left the school, the teacher in that kind of an environment, you didn't get that again at home. And when I came out here, I ran into families out west that did that. Like
Mm,
they had a family time every day where I saw dads teaching daughters and sons. Moms would teach daughters how you be a woman. This is how you
mhm,
be a man. This is how you talk to people. All these things. And I was blown away
mm,
because it's something so basic and something so easy that we could do that would reverberate throughout our entire community if
mm,
everyone cared enough to teach their children how to
right.
care enough.
Eddie, I
Accountability.
think, yeah, I think you bring up a good point. And as far as being a parent, I think one of the problems with what we're experiencing today is that a lot of people relied on the fact that they thought that the world was going. You said something about like if you don't teach them, then the world is going to teach them, right? And
That's right.
to some
Mhm,
extent, that's true. But we had a bunch of kids who were, you know, went through college, and everybody assumed that what you saw in college is not going to happen in real life. And then all of a sudden, it started happening in real life, and we have a lot of this insanely woke culture
mm,
just sudden. It felt like it was kind of gradual and then sudden, like it just went everywhere into our culture. And a lot of it was, I think people believe that, oh, the world will show them, like once they get out of college they're going to get into the real world, and then they're going to realize like, oh, I can't, you know, just take all this time off from work, or I can't jump into a workforce and say that you experienced racism because you had to work an extra hour or something. You know, your boss made you work an extra hour, or you got fired for doing something stupid. You know, I think parents have kind of deferred their responsibility of raising their kids, that instead of having family time where you sit down for dinner each night, and instead of, going to church or, doing things as a family, parents have
Mm.
kind of deferred that responsibility to the iPad or to the school teachers. And it's
Yeah.
like, no, that's
Or they
on
just pick
you.
the right show to watch on YouTube. Hey,
Yeah.
this will teach them. I'll just put this on. Yeah,
Yeah,
and
exactly.
that needs
You
to stop. I
cannot.
mean, teachers do the same thing. You go to school and they like, here's this pamphlet, and
Watch
they
this.
take a
Yeah.
nap.
Watch that.
Yeah,
There
they
was-
do
there
the
was
You
same
a
cannot
meme.
thing.
replace.
There's a meme that's circulating around that it might be old at this point, where it used to be where it was on one side of the picture said back then, where the child was sitting down and the parent and the teacher were both addressing the child. Now,
Oh, yeah.
today, it's where the parent and the child are both yelling at the teacher, right?
Mhm.
So it's shifted where no longer, because I remember growing up where I'm 46 and I think I'm right at that cusp of the generation where, if my teacher says I messed up, then my mother's coming to the school and her and the teacher are both going to tell me what's wrong with you, right? And I knew I was going to have to deal with both of them because my mother was going to make sure that the teacher and her are united front, and I'm just going to have to listen to whatever they're going to have to say, right? Because my mom didn't
Yeah.
play that. And so
They had the proper authority.
if the teacher said something, that was the word. And so from that scared the lights out of me. So I would always try to be as in alignment with possible. Now and my father was a principal, he's retired now, but it's where the students, if the teacher says something, the student says to their parent, and the parent gets mad at the teacher for having the audacity to try to correct the child. And
Yeah.
it gets so it's there's a shift here, and maybe it's tons of reasons that socially, culturally that has happened, but it all comes down to what you're saying, brother Eddie, in terms of accountability in our own households. It starts right from there to correct all those things that's going on wrong.
Yeah, it has to be intentional. It has to be intentional. You have to actually have laid out a plan, and this is what we do, and there's got to be a routine, because when you leave idle minds to do what idle minds do, it's never going to be good. You have to be intentional with kids. You got to teach them discipline, and that means having a routine, and that means
Chores.
I mean, chores, the whole thing. I was never, the thing. I raised my grandson, right? He's 8 years old now. When we took that responsibility over in our family, he was about 2, and he had a terrible temper. I mean, he used to bang his head on the ground as a baby. I mean, he terrible temper. So I already knew like what I how to raise a man by default, because I did everything wrong. So I would never give him a second chance. And everybody, my wife and other daughters, be like, "That's cruel." I'm like, "No, it's not cruel." If I basically, you saw it. Do you see the list on my kitchen when you were here, Maurice? I have a list, and the list is each offense and what it buys you. So if you buy it, you own it. That's it. You talk back. That means you get in the corner, and I fill up the liquid soap jug all the way to the top, and you have to hold it there. Now, when I first started
old school, straight
Eddie,
old.
as much fun as I had at your house, Eddie, I did not read your fridge. I'm sorry.
But this was the thing, that once he saw and understood, there was no second chances. There was, every time you automatically got the punishment. It was automatic. Had nothing to do with me being mad at you or nothing. That's just what happens. You have to pay for your mistakes.
Right.
And once
Accountability.
he understood that, and there was no way out of it, his whole everything changed. He's at school, gets the microphone in the cafeteria, and they tell him to say something. This little boy goes on a whole tangent about God in the public school.
Really?
I love him. I love him. This kid is everything I wish I was at his age. And for that reason, I will do anything in my power to make sure that he succeeds. And and being there for him and teaching him and showing him the things that people didn't show me to make sure he doesn't make those same mistakes is so detrimental to me.
But
And it's
also holding him
detrimental to the
accountable.
world. Exactly. And it's
Yes.
detrimental to the people that he's going to, his future wife, his future children, the people that he's going to work alongside of. You never know what your lesson today could save someone's life later. You have no idea what that amounts to. So yes, what do you tell people, Ryan, right now? Somebody's fresh out, they come to you and they need help, and they say, I don't even know where step one is for me. What do you tell them?
Well, we created an economic hotline. This hotline where individuals can text, and then I'm on the hotline. I have other folks that might help out when those days.
It's at the bottom here, guys. So if you want to see it, I got it scrolling across the bottom there as well as his Amazon there for his book.
But I say you text that, and what we do is, we've even opened it up now where we're scheduling for those more serious cases. Like we saw this the other day, someone text and they were talking about they were suicidal. And I didn't know this person. But I said, okay, usually I'd use Friday for my office hours. So I said, you know what? Because again, the whole goal of the technology is to try to make it scalable. So it's hard to do one-on-one, but for her, I said, let's talk. So we took about 30 minutes out. And we talked for a good little while about her financial situation. But that's going to be an ongoing basis where I kind of merged her in with another contract that we have where I do one-on-one counseling with them. But as far as what I tell them, it's just one step at a time, man. It's literally figuring out going over the various budgets, going over the various net worth sheets. But even before that, we have a whole class called It's All in Your Mind, and talking about the valuable wealth building mindset to get folks primed and ready to have a wealth building mindset. What does that really mean? Like, a lot of people don't know, like, prosperity. What does that mean? What does it mean to be prosperous? And like, my mother was on welfare. I consider her to be, at that time, a prosperous woman. Well, how do you say that, Ryan? Well, because it's like 5 ways: physically, socially, mentally, financially, and spiritually. So there's 5 ways to be prosperous, and not all of them have to do with money. So if we can focus on those things, so even on welfare, she worked out, she had a strong mind. She gave back to the community and volunteered. That's where I got my volunteerism from. And she took us to church. So she had a strong basis in 4 of the 5 ways in which we talk about in terms of what prosperity really means. And so even on welfare, she was a prosperous woman. So I think we have to start retraining ourselves to what prosperity means. We have to retrain ourselves of why are we here, our purpose in life, and figuring out what God has called us to do. I'm sure you've heard it: 2 most valuable days: the day you were born, the day you know why you were born, and why we're here. And once we figure that out, then we just dedicate our lives to that mission. Because anytime you take yourself off track from that mission, you're robbing others from the blessing that God has given to move through you. And so I just think that I see so much potential in so many people that goes wasted. And one of my mentors told me that Ryan, there's so many gifts that people have had in the graveyard because people died with them.
Yeah, richest people in the graveyard.
And it's just it's something else.
Yeah,
one of my wife's.
Go ahead.
One of my wife's favorite movies of all time is Caroline, and she showed it. I've watched it a couple times with her. But there's
that's
one
your favorite
line.
movie. Why are you lying?
One of the lines in that movie, it's where the Caroline goes up to her mom and she says, "Mom, are we poor?" The mom answers, "Only financially, honey." And like there's been so many times in my life where I've been, like poor, like negative in my bank account, living paycheck to paycheck. I mean, I still do, but I'm not negative anymore, which is good. But I mean, there's so many more ways, like what you just said right there about there's 5 different ways to be prosperous or,
Mhm.
wealthy. I see, the wealth and me coming home from work and seeing my two boys run up to me
Yeah.
and me picking them up and then giving a hug and a kiss to my wife. Man, that is a beautiful thing. And I love
Uh-huh.
that. That
The priceless.
fulfills me. That drives me. So, um, man, I really like that you said that. Man, there's so many things that, like, when you
I'll
just
give
say
you
it,
one
it
more.
resonates and I love it.
I'll give you one more. And I learned this the hard way as well. God only lets you keep what you give away.
Mm.
Remember in the Lord's Prayer, he said, to forgive others is, forgive me as I forgive others.
Mhm.
Also, all the blessings that God gives to you has to flow through you to somebody
Yeah.
else, because if you shut that off and try to keep it, it
Yeah.
dries up. So you
Exactly.
have to, whatever God gives to you has to go through you to someone else, or else the blessings will stop.
Yeah.
So, whatever you hear is what you say. God,
Mhm.
Jesus even did that. He modeled it. He says, I only do what I see my Father in heaven doing, and
Yeah.
I only say what I hear my Father in heaven saying.
Mhm.
So when God, it's just is the whole reason why the show is called the Patriots Prayer,
Mm.
right? It is because I have a vision for the world. I feel as though God touched my heart some time ago, and just somehow or another, it's not because I'm the most talented person in the world or I'm the most knowledgeable on how to do these. I'm not. I'm
Mhm.
really not. But what God has done is put good people in my path, and He's opened doors that I could have never opened by myself,
Mm.
because I give Him the glory and I constantly say it. It just happens that way, and along the way we learn lessons. Maurice and I learned a valuable lesson just recently together, but we learned it. And I think we're better off for the things that we
Yeah.
encounter, good, bad, or indifferent. Everything is a brick in the wall that makes us stronger. It makes us who we are.
Right.
And God will bless those who bless others. And that's exactly what this is our way, that we feel so compelled. There's so much in us that we feel like people have to know and they have to hear and they have to learn. So how can you do that? I'm not knocking on doors. So we do
Right.
a podcast.
Mm.
We do a podcast, and we've been
Oh,
doing that is continuing to grow. And I just think it gives us a sense of purpose and achievement and accomplishment, just like you said. And if we can help people by interviewing folks like you and having this conversation that we're having today, by
Mhm.
helping them find you and helping them get financially literate to get to dig themselves out of a hole, I am so glad to have been the catalyst that we could provide for you a platform that to reach people you
Right.
otherwise would have talked to, or maybe would not have tuned in. And so we can have that conversation, and we can get back to being one people and one nation under God. And that's really what this is all about at the
That's
end of the day.
exactly.
yeah.
I feel like uh man, when you talk about financial literacy, this feels like old school values. Like, this feels like the America that I was raised on, that I was taught what America was and what to expect from other people, right? And I know that there's so many good people out there still today, because in the news and the media, when you get bogged down in that stuff, you think, "Oh my gosh, America's racist. It's a terrible, horrible place. Why, how am I going to live this life as a person of
Mm.
color?" Or, even as a white guy right now, people are demonizing you for having inherent traits that you're racist. But I mean, when you talk about this stuff, it really does feel like old school American values, where it's not and it feels really weird calling it old school, because I'm not very old. But
No.
but like, I feel like I grew up in a post and pre-racist America, and I just want it to go back to being brothers. Uh, you know, like, that's why I promote Tribe of Patriots, because I love this country and I love the people in it. And I don't care what your skin color is. I don't care, where you came from. If you love this country and you promote God, if you believe in God, and you want this country to do better by helping the people around you, regardless of what color their skin is. That's the craziest thing to me lately. That's been driving me crazy, because I get a lot of flack for saying what I say, which is weird. but I appreciate the way that you're tackling this in that, we're going to help brothers and sisters of all colors who are struggling. And
Mhm.
I mean, I really appreciate your message, and I hope that we can get this out, and you can help more people, and then, a rising tide lifts all boats. So I
Well,
really, really appreciate you coming on.
at the end of the day, it's really just about, like, regardless. Let's just say, and I tell this to the union folks all the time. I said, you all are fighting, because I do a lot of work with unions. You all are fighting for increased wages and benefits, but it all has economic value. My job, whether or not you're successful, is to make sure that your people are prepared, to make sure they're not living check to Tuesday.
Yeah.
And you might battle and get higher wages. You might. And I met a union leader, and I won't say to the union, but I remember I raised over $4 million for an organization, Operation Hope, in the Detroit area. And the leader, and it was to give free services, all free of charge. And we had 6 offices, all with all their own counselors that will sit down with an individual and be a free financial coach, free services. And I said, man, we would love to get this union. I was always going to say the name, but I said, no, I'm not going to put them out there like that. We're going to get this union to get these free services, because I know a lot of your people are living check to Tuesday. And I gave him my card, and I said, here, just call us. Let's set it up. I just want your folks to know, because we're not charging, no hidden fees, nothing. And wouldn't you know, he looked at it and he said, sounds like it's great services. Oh, it's no union bug on this card. I can't take it. And he gave me the card back. So again,
Wow.
I said,
Here's the thing. I just went before we went live a couple of
Uh-huh.
minutes before we got talking. I was talking to Damon Galdo. Damon
Mhm.
Galdo is running for Congress in Jersey, and he is a union carpenter. And he's a regular, everyday working man, blue collar guy that decided to up end his life and just said, you know what, our kids need better. Our community needs do this, that lives day to day like us. Who else will do it? Right. So he's the regular man, he's the everyman, and he decided that I'm going to take up this challenge and I'm going to run. And that's what he's doing. And I implore everyone to go look him up. Damon Galdo for Congress. He embodies what America used to be as far as politics went. We would leave our natural everyday lives with our 9-to-5s and go serve, and then go back to those 9-to-5s, because politics wasn't supposed to be a lifelong career. It was
Right.
never. It was never set up that way.
God forbid. Yeah,
And he's a union guy, and it is a good guy. He's a great guy. As a matter of fact, come check us out on Friday. We're going to be talking to him. Yep.
Yeah, I'm pro union, but again, I feel that sometimes, like organizations do, many times individuals in leadership of various unions, and I won't call out particular ones, sometimes get married to a level of dependency on the leadership.
Mhm.
And I just think we've got to get to a point where we're empowering our people, where the people in leadership are no longer as necessary for that person. There's always going to be enough people to help where the next person is going to need that assistance. But for that one individual, from month to month, should be better off because of leadership, where they can say, you know what, last year, this time, I really needed your help, but this year, I don't need it as much. And and that's the sign of true leadership, and that's the
American. That's the American dream right there.
Yeah, that's the sign of saying, I've actually poured into you, where now you're helping yourself. Who does not want to be self-sufficient? But self-sufficiency to a lot of leaders is a very evil thing, because wait a minute, if they're self-sufficient, they're not me sufficient, and they're no longer necessary, and I can't tap on them for further support because they no longer need me. And that is where you get ego and pride that gets into a level of power that corrupts. And
that's right.
I think that's the point where we have to really have a lot of internal soul searching of what are our leaders really bringing to the table. And again, if the maid ain't good, fire them.
Yeah,
That's right.
I think the tide is turning though. I mean, just look down to Texas where I think Brandon Herrera, you know, I mean, he was a YouTuber and you know, very successful YouTuber, and he sees problems in his community and he's like, "You know what? I'm going to make a change. I'm going to run for Congress." So shout out to Brandon Herrera, who I think is winning or won already, but I'm not exactly sure. I haven't been able to keep up with that. But I mean, I think the tide is turning for everyday Americans who love this country, and it's gotten to the point where, like, I mean, I believe that the conservative leaning types are driven by necessity. And man, it is necessary to start getting involved and to start speaking up and to no longer be silent. As you know, Eddie
Well,
says,
I want to give a shout out to all those folks that are not in politics that are just served because it's the right thing to do. They're
yeah,
not,
yeah, really,
they just doing work. And when I meet these people, and I travel around the country a lot, and I see people, and I'm like, wow, they're just doing this good work just because it's necessary. That to me, there's no paycheck involved. It's just right. And they might be having a 9 to 5 job that they do, but then they come on and do a podcast or they do this and they do. I'm like, man, that to me is like that. I like that because there's no agenda. It's just
you can
pure,
tell they just really care.
yeah.
They
just care
absolutely,
about it.
actually, they're genuine. They care. Listen, this what we do here, and I've said this before. It's not cheap to run this. The subscriptions, the equipment that you must buy, the time that you got to put into it, the connections and the networking. It's a lot to take on. Trust me. I didn't realize it when I started how much was actually involved, and now years in, I'm grateful I didn't know because I'm scared I might not have actually went through with it. But now I've done it, and I'm happy I've done it,
Yeah.
and we got some accomplishments that we can tout, and I can look back on that and say, look what God used me to do. And I think that's kind of common in life, right? You know, if you know the troubles you might, you know, if you know that person might break your heart, you might not have ever dated them, but to loved and lost is better to not have loved at all, right? That's what they say. So there's something you're going to get out of everything. I don't care whether there's something that's good in your life or bad in your life. There's something to take from it, something to learn. Let God use you in the moment, and always try to be better today than you were yesterday. Ryan, is there anything at all that you want to say before you get out of here?
Man, I just want folks to text. I love to work with you. And don't forget, we've got over 18,000 nonprofits across the country that when you text, we can have access to, all providing free services. You will never be charged a dime for anything. And I say all the time, if I refer you to a resource, and that's courtesy of Spring4 Pro, AARP, and other various networks that we are attached to, we can look them up via zip code. We're doing workshops all the time. We're setting off to do another series of workshops in April for Financial Literacy Month, weekly workshops, all in your mind, how to build your credit, how to budget effectively, investing 101, all free of charge. And my big thing is I get paid. I always ask people how they get paid because you need to know. I get paid through the organizations and corporations that pay me to educate their employees. So that allows me to give the resources economic hotline for free. And if somebody that I refer you to asks you to spend as much as $1, let me know and they'll be removed from that referral.
It's gonna be dropping some elbows on them.
Yeah, so
People's
it's all free
elbow.
of charge. I just want to help folks and just let people know that there's help. There's help here, and I want to help them. And
So if you look in the comment section on X page, and I'm going to put it on the Patriots prayer as well, in the link section, you'll see all of Ryan's info, all of the Amazon resources that he's offered there, the number that you can text, all of it. It's all there, guys. If you need financial literacy help, if you're in a position where you need help, do not be too proud to reach out and get it. We've all needed help. And I'm so grateful that Ryan and people like him are available to make sure they're there to give you a hand up and help you out. But as usual, as I always say, the silent majority, you need to stop being silent. Stand your ground. We'll see you next time on the Patriots Prayer.
Hang
You
on,
guys have a great one.
don't close it out yet.
How you gonna mess my whole sign off up, man? What you doing?
Well, you didn't let me speak.
Oh, go ahead.
Ryan, I wanted to let you know before we sign off that, man, this has been one of my favorite interviews. You seem like a really cool guy, and
Appreciate you, man.
I'm excited that we had you on. And I mean, really, you touched my heart, and I want to look into it more, and hope I really hope we can help get the word out for you. So God bless you, man. Thank you.
Let me put this out there too, just so he knows, because I've been looking at this the whole time we've been on here. I don't think we've ever had a sustained amount of viewers sustained for as long as we had for this entire hour and something. As of right now, we have sustained on one platform 781 viewers sustained throughout the entirety of the podcast. So just to let you know, I mean, and that really equates to thousands of viewers.
It's Ryan's voice. He's drawing them in.
This is the first time throughout the entirety of the podcast we don't see that ebb and flow. It has been an influx that has continually increased from the time that we went live to now. So people love your message. They want to hear what you're saying. So I believe God's got good things to do for you and through you. So guys, we'll see you next time on the Patriots Prayer. This time I'm really signing off. As soon as I can find the button, there it is.
My people of this country, and we're under attack. They banning us, they cancel us for speaking the facts. If you man enough, come stand with us, take USA back. And every time we pull up, all you're gonna see is American flag.